back at it again, another reaction, man. Who don't react to making the case LeBron James. Let's get straight to the video.
Basketball is special. The size of the court and the lack of pads or helmets give fans the most intimate experience of a team sport that exists. And because of the different styles that basketball allows for, players develop their own distinct identities and signature styles through their creativity, flair, and athleticism.
Man, I remember that dunk, man. DeAndre Jordan.
The scoring volume and two-way nature of the sport give individual stars a nearly unprecedented amount of control over the flow and outcome of a game. For this reason, players are constantly compared to their peers and to the legends of the past.
I love basketball, man.
Hotly contested question in the sport: who's the greatest to ever do it?
Who is the greatest?
The question is redundant. They believe in only one right answer, their answer. Others might have their own personal stance, but acknowledge one or two alternatives. But I believe that there's much more nuance to the question of greatness and more answers to it than you might think. By my count, there are 8 players in NBA history that have a substantial claim as the GOAT. It's a subjective thing, though. I can't give you a definitive answer. All I can do is make the argument. So today, I'll be making the case for LeBron James as the greatest basketball player of all time.
All right, before we get into the little taste, but I think LeBron James is the greatest basketball player right now in the NBA. Comment down below.
To begin making the case for LeBron James,
No.
Michael Jordan is the
LeBron
GOAT.
James isn't built like that. There's no way. There's no
LeBron
way that he
isn't
is
the
the
GOAT.
GOAT.
Get
Get
out
out
of
of
here.
here.
What are you
Really?
talking about?
LeBron,
You're
delete
making
this
a video
video.
about
You're out
LeBron
of your
being
mind.
the
Get
GOAT.
out of here.
No. And just like that, we've started the LeBron GOAT case off right. Somebody like me makes a video like this, to which a
Man,
certain
LeBron, he's
segment
good,
of the
though.
population reacts by getting so mad
Shoot,
that they
LeBron.
start to pop blood vessels. And that's a really interesting
He's
reaction.
good though, man.
I've made videos about why players like Larry Bird and Tim Duncan are the GOATs. And sure, I get some, this video is garbage because MJ is the GOAT comments. But it's mostly been people having a lovely chat about the merits and nuances of those players' careers. I don't expect that to be the case.
LeBron, he's good
But
though,
why?
man.
Why is it
Like,
that LeBron,
I think,
more than
I don't
any
know.
other player, gets
Like,
more
last year he
truthers
played
so
good.
defensive? If you are one of those
Like,
volatile
he's
Jordan
good.
defenders and you're racing to the comments right now, I know that there's nothing I can do to stop you. But for the rest of you, please, just humor me. Even if you think Jordan's the GOAT, hear what I have to say. We all still love basketball. We can all still be friends. When LeBron James was a freshman at St. Vincent St. Mary's High School in Akron, Ohio,
man's
he
good.
posted per-game averages of 18 points, 6 rebounds, and 3 assists. The Irish went undefeated, 27-0, won the state championship, and James was named the state tournament MVP.
Shoot.
Just like that,
He brought the
the
Cavaliers
final
to
year of
the
anonymity for
finals.
LeBron James was over. In the summer, between his freshman and sophomore years, James's play on the AAU circuit caught the eyes of every scout he encountered. Word began to
Yeah, and he
spread
went first
far and wide
overall
about
pick,
the
too.
man-child from Akron, Ohio. In his sophomore season, he saw an increase in every box score figure. His team started playing home games at the University of Akron's arena in order to seat the thousands of spectators. His team lost one game all year and won the state championship again. He became the first sophomore ever named to USA Today's All-USA First Team. He had officially entered the territory of phenom. Scouts were infatuated with James for a number of reasons. He had every measurable you could want out of a 16-year-old. Tall, strong, good wingspan, off-the-charts athleticism. But he also had superb instincts, a natural enthusiasm
He's a great
for the game,
passer.
an unselfish play style, preternatural passing abilities, and strong leadership qualities. Which is why, in his junior year, Sports
He made his
Illustrated
teammates
put
better and all
LeBron
that,
on
bro.
its cover. Now, this cover didn't single-handedly trigger the outrageous expectations of LeBron James, but it certainly helped. The cover acknowledged James's unprecedented talent at such an early stage, while alluding to the expectations, hopes, and wonders that such an unbelievable talent would have to bear.
Yeah, he made his
Beginning
teammates
junior
better.
year, James and the Irish would play
He's
their home
clutch.
games almost exclusively at the University of Akron's arena. ESPN2 began broadcasting their matchups to the country, and Time Warner Cable started selling his games on pay-per-view for $7.95 a pop to the Akron populace.
Shoot,
The hype
LeBron's
was
one of a kind.
substantiated by more incredible play from James, who improved from
But
year to
I don't
year.
know.
As a junior, he was named
Jordan.
to his second
Michael
All-USA
Jordan, he was
first
good, but I
team
ain't never
and
seen him
became
play.
the first junior to ever be named the Gatorade National
Just
Player
watch
of the Year.
highlights.
As a senior, he won a second National Player of the Year award and was named to an unheard of third All-USA first team. James's junior year remains the turning point of his celebrity. It was then that he went from highly touted young prospect to inheritor of the sport of basketball. And that's the thing. We as sports fans fetishize potential. The allure of the future is endless. If a player has potential, they can be anything. It hasn't happened yet, so it's still technically possible, no matter how outrageous the expectation may be. But then if they don't succeed, we label them as failures.
But I got to
Busts.
see LeBron
Couldn't
play.
do it, didn't pan out. Never
No.
mind the fact that we were the ones who set the expectations to begin with. Promise is a double-edged
I think right
sword,
now
and
he's
this
one of
was
the
promise
best
like no other. LeBron was the first real athletic
players.
prodigy of the internet era. It was the first time that the country
Like right
opened
now.
itself up into this kind of frenzy about the next big athlete in the uber commercialized post-Jordan
But
NBA.
I don't know.
These days,
Jordan's
young
still-
prospects
Jordan-
in
I think
every
Jordan's
sport
still on
get
top
enough
of him,
smoke
though.
blown up their asses to host a barbecue with top 100 recruiting lists and the videos with titles calling any prospect who hits back-to-back threes the next Steph Curry. It's too much to say that it started with LeBron, but he was undoubtedly the initial product of the hype machine we're familiar with today. He was so good at such a young age, and so many people saw him and talked about him and heard about him that the stakes were clear. LeBron James could not be a six-time NBA All-Star. He couldn't win one or two MVPs. He couldn't be the next Tracy McGrady or the next Vince Carter. He had to be the face of the league and go down in history as one of, if not the, greatest basketball players of all
Dude, he's a
time.
winner, though.
In the
He,
Sports Illustrated article, the one that called
won
him
a championship
chosen one,
last
a label
year
that
and
he embraced by having it tattooed
brought a
on
championship
his
to
back,
Cleveland
writer Grant Wall recognized
and
the
Miami.
absurdity of asking if a 17-year-old who still couldn't buy cigarettes was really the heir to the next generation of basketball. But after seeing LeBron and talking to him, Wall concedes that it was indeed the right question. Was it ever? In the 2004 NBA draft, LeBron James was the first overall selection by his hometown Cleveland Cavaliers. He was selected ahead of college standout Chris Bosh, Dwayne Wade, who had just led Marquette to the Final Four and was named an All-American, college basketball's Player of the Year TJ Ford, and Carmelo Anthony, who had just led Syracuse to an NCAA championship. LeBron, out of high school, went ahead of all of them, with the weight of a franchise, a city, and perhaps a league on his
That's crazy.
18-year-old shoulders. As the most anticipated basketball player since Lou Alcindor, LeBron James could not falter. What if he'd failed? What if the $100 million shoe deals and the celebrity and the fame had been too much too soon? And honestly, how wasn't it? How did LeBron not mess it all up? I don't know, but he didn't. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the incredible things that he's done since with his platform as the country's most famous athlete. He's spurred and advocated social change, especially in the realm of civil rights, from Trayvon Martin's shooting to the Black Lives Matter movement. He has been an indispensable source of goodwill and good fortune for his community. He's been the most important focal point in the era of player empowerment in the NBA. He didn't just defy the odds by not becoming a complete nutcase. He has leveraged
And I don't know,
position,
his
set
son,
an
Bronny.
incredible example, and has been one
And
of
that'd
the
be cool
best
if he did
role
to play
models
together.
that any child or parent could ever ask for. He's still playing, which means that all of these accolades are subject to change, and likely will. But the only assumptions I'll be making are that LeBron finished within at least the top 5 of MVP voting this year and made first team All-NBA, which means he has been named to 13 All-NBA first teams and 16 total All-NBA teams, both records demonstrating his unbelievably prolonged reign over the sport. He's won 4 MVPs in 5 years, a feat only matched by Bill Russell, and finished in the top 5 of MVP voting in all but 3 of his 17 seasons. He's been selected to 16 All-Star games, 6 All-Defensive teams, and stands at or near the top of multiple all-time statistical leaderboards that demonstrate his all-around proficiency from playoff points scored to career assists. He has achieved such a universal and unique statistical position for a number of reasons. Namely among them, LeBron James is the best basketball player of all time. When James Naismith nailed a peach basket to a wall in a gym in Massachusetts,
I like
there
everybody
was
named
no
NBA.
way he could have ever imagined the game as it is today. And there is
I just
no
like the
way,
NBA.
not in his
NBA
wildest
fanatic.
dreams, that he could have ever imagined an athlete like LeBron. The guy is 6'8", 260, built like Karl Malone, passes like Larry Bird, jumps like Michael, and surveys the court like Magic Johnson. He's not the strongest or the fastest, but he's faster than the strongest and stronger than the fastest. He has a cocktail of cerebral perception and hand-eye coordination that has made him one of the premier passers in league history. He has a 7-foot wingspan, a lightning-quick first step, supernatural anticipation, and IQ on both ends of the court that comes from the brain of basketball's Da Vinci. It would be enough if LeBron had just built a name and career for himself thanks to his prodigious natural talents. But he worked diligently, year in and year out, to improve himself as a basketball player. He received criticism for not using his Herculean frame to lock down opponents, and so he became a lethal defender and was twice the runner-up for Defensive Player of the Year. Opponents would exploit James's lack of post-game by assigning him smaller, quicker defenders.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Became a lifelong and became a back-down
On his
to better
post
space the
game
floor
with
and
King,
accommodate
the
the
GOAT.
modern style of basketball. He needed to improve his streaky jump shot. He became a master of efficiency, and at his best was a 40% three-point shooter. There is no aspect of basketball that LeBron James is not superb at. It's a silly hypothetical, but I think it serves my point to say that a team of 5 LeBrons would beat a team of 5.
Man, that was crazy right there. He threw his legs to his own teammate.
But he never stopped.
And won.
And he's been adding to it for an insanely long
Hey.
time. He's been probably the best basketball player in the world since
Give me that.
2008 or 2009. And if your life came down to one game, he's still one of the first calls you'd make at age 35 in year 17. He can do anything, does everything, and he's never had a truly significant injury. It wasn't until 2019 that he missed a substantial amount of time because of a groin injury. And aside from some issues with cramps and some occasional back trouble, LeBron has never been a liability in that department. He is the 4th highest scoring average in NBA history, and with the way basketball is played today, he can defend point guards and centers alike. Add all of that to a tireless an unselfish play style, and a penchant
he can play any position, man.
The queen of the chessboard. When it comes to playing basketball, he is the best at it. Hold on. I think I hear something. It's the sound of Skip Bayless's acolytes losing their shit in my comment section. Best player ever. Big moments? No way. LeBron's terrible in the clutch. He hates taking the last shot. He doesn't have the killer instinct. He doesn't have what it takes to come through in crunch time. I don't know where this got started or how it's been able to persist, but that sentiment is just factually untrue. There is an overwhelming amount of evidence to support LeBron's clutch ability and killer
What can he not do?
There's statistics that show that James is clutch. Evidence, analytics, stuff made by people who know how to do math and use calculators and stuff. And if you don't believe them because they're nerds and because basketball isn't just about numbers, then just look at the dude's results. He's hit clutch shots in the regular season.
That was crazy. I mean, I saw some of these clutch shots. I remember that one. Ha!
And he's hit clutch shots in the playoffs.
I remember this.
Don't tell me that he can't win games or doesn't have a killer instinct or isn't clutch or any of that shit. He spent a lot of time playing in the biggest games too in an absolutely loaded league. In the playoffs, he has faced Gilbert Arenas, Chauncey Chauncey Billups, Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili, Kawhi Leonard, James Harden, Russell Westbrook, Kevin Durant, Ray Allen, Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett, Dirk Nowitzki, Dwight Howard, Derrick Rose, Al Horford and Paul Millsap, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, DeMar DeRozan and Kyle Lowry, Paul George, Victor Oladipo, Damian Lillard, and so on. And the players he's faced haven't just been eye-popping. He's lined up against some of the vaunted teams and franchises in NBA lore. He played the Spurs, the most successful post-Jordan franchise in basketball, 3 times in the finals. And then he faces the Warriors in 4 straight finals. Meanwhile, LeBron's teams always seem to be overachievers. In his first 7 seasons in Cleveland, his best teammate by a mile was Mo Williams. Yeah, one-time All-Star
nobody.
Mo Williams. The Cavs front office can't be faulted for not trying to get LeBron help, but they certainly deserve some criticism
have nobody,
for
man.
failing to actually get him help. Anderson Varejao,
Back to the
Zydrunas
finals.
Ilgauskas, Larry Hughes, Drew Gooden, Eric Snow, Old Shaq, Ben Wallace's core.
Old
None
Shaq.
of them were really bona fide quality contributors who, in the roles they were supposed to fill, could compete and win a championship against the Spurs or the Celtics. The Cavs' entire philosophy during his first stint in the land was, he's so damn good, we'll just bank on him putting up ungodly numbers and carrying us to a win every single night. Which he usually somehow did. And when he left, look at how the Cavs floundered. From a league-high 61 wins to 19, the second worst record in the league. Nothing exemplified the plight of LeBron more than Game 5 of the 2007 Eastern Conference Finals. With the series tied at 2 games apiece, LeBron and the Cavs were trying to pull off an upset against the former champion Detroit Pistons nucleus on their home court.
He was playing with randoms.
In the 4th quarter, and the Cavs down 7, LeBron got fouled on a drive.
LeBron, he had all his
one
battles
of
on
the
platinum.
most impressive stretches of basketball ever played in any series by any player. To say that James, at age 22, proceeded to take over the game feels like an undersell. He scored 29 of the Cavs' final 30 points, including 25 in a row. He was transcendent, finishing with 48 points after 2 overtimes and the game-winning layup. It was a performance for the ages, but it was also almost entirely necessary. When the
Beautiful.
Cavs played the Spurs in the finals that year, they lost because a 22-year-old LeBron couldn't beat the Pop, Parker, Manu, Duncan Spurs by himself. Shame on him. So is there any surprise that he wanted to go to a real team like Miami, where he didn't have to do everything? And make no mistake, it's not like he didn't still have his Atlas moments with the Heat. Game 6 of the 2012 Eastern Conference Finals. The Heat are down 3-2, coming off of the decision in the 2011 Finals. LeBron and the Heat were under as big of a magnifying glass as you could get. In Boston, the Celtics had the chance to send the LeBron, Wade, Bosh Heat out by the historical wayside as a catastrophic failure. But then LeBron put on this face and picked the Celtics apart. He had 30 points in the first half. In classic LeBron fashion, he was everywhere doing everything. He sucked the oxygen out of the arena and never gave it back, coming through with an all-time performance in maybe the most important game of his career.
Yay.
2013 Finals, Games 6 and 7, leading the 4th quarter charge in Game 6, hitting a crucial 3 with 20 seconds left to set up Ray Allen's legendary shot. Back out to James, another 3. It's good. James knocks it down. 37, 12, and 4, plus the series icing jumper in Game 7. James pulls up, puts it in, 4-point lead. 35 for LeBron James.
I remember some of these games.
Series
It was crazy to watch.
Will someday fill their own multi-part documentary.
It was crazy to
We'll talk
watch.
about a few more later, but the overall theme is undeniable. LeBron has lived in the playoffs and thrived under the brightest of lights, despite the unique brand of scrutiny, doubt, and criticism.
It'll always be a
that
crazy
he
dunk.
sends. But none of that matters to you because of 3 things. The sources of so much of that doubt and criticism. The 2010 Eastern Conference semifinals, the decision, and the 2011 finals. All 3 events happened within the span of about 400 days. It started with the second round of the 2010 playoffs, Boston versus Cleveland. Despite having the best record in the league, the Cavs lost in 6 to the Pierce, KG, Ray Allen Celtics. LeBron's numbers look okay, but if you remember watching at the time, or you go back now and watch, you can tell that LeBron's just not there. He's checked out. No aggression, no urgency, stretches of total detachment. He was a no-show. And no one still knows definitively why, but salacious rumors persist that you can look up for yourself. Whatever the reason, the loss amped the noise around LeBron up to new levels. He can't do it. He doesn't have it. The basketball world prepared itself for one of the most consequential free agent decisions ever. What they got was the decision. A 1-hour nationally televised special. LeBron was going to announce his decision on live TV. How could this go
Yeah, I
wrong?
remember this.
The answer to the question everybody wants to know.
What did he?
LeBron, what's your decision?
In this fall, man, it's very tough. In this fall, I'm going to take my talents to South Beach and join the Miami Heat.
The best basketball player in the world dumped his hometown team, the most tortured sports city in America, live on television to join a super team with Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh. He had quit on Cleveland in the playoffs and followed it up with the mother of all backstabs. The decision remains perhaps the single meanest thing an athlete has ever done to their franchise. It was mindless, shallow, insulting, and egotistical in a profound way. LeBron quickly went from one of the most popular and celebrated athletes in the country to its most hated. Cavs owner Dan Gilbert published an infamous letter tearing James apart. Fans burned his jersey in the streets. Conversations about how LeBron was wired and whether he could be the guy flooded the airwaves. But the funny thing was, I don't think
Yeah, I
anyone
remember
really
this. I
faulted
remember
him
that.
for wanting out of Cleveland. It was clear that he didn't get the help that a superstar needs in order to capitalize on their talents. The criticism was first and foremost with the execution, doing it in a self-aggrandizing live TV special.
Yeah, I remember that.
Criticism quickly turned into nonsensical,
Everybody's burning his jerseys and stuff, man.
the same LeBron that was getting praised for his
But
ability to cultivate
he came
camaraderie
back
and success
and
on
won a
abhorrent
championship.
teams was now being criticized for not making his teammates fear him, whatever that means. Was the decision the dumbest thing LeBron could have done? Yes. Was it a knife in the back of the community that had supported him as he ascended from chosen one to superstar? Yes. Was most of this criticism of his mental makeup and desire to win baseless and spiteful? Also, yes. But it probably didn't feel that way for a lot of NBA fans at the time. They hated him. He had quit on and betrayed his team. So when the Heat lost the 2011 finals, the hate boners raged in full force. And the Heat didn't just lose because the Mavs were better. They lost because LeBron choked. His scoring average plummeted to 17 points a
think I
game,
remember this
down
too.
from 26 during the regular season. And of those 17 points a game, only 3 came during the fourth quarter, which is especially damning considering how tight the series was. James turned himself into public enemy number 1, promised a jewelry box's worth of rings, and when the world was watching, completely flopped. There are no excuses. I can't tell you actually LeBron played really well, or that his team let him down. He sucked. He let them down, and they lost. It's a fact. Should it define him forever? No. Because if we take a trip into yesteryear, we can look at a young point guard on the Los Angeles Lakers in the 1984 finals.
Man, Magic
by the name of
Johnson. That
Irving
man was.
Magic
I ain't never
Johnson.
got to see his
During the
highlights.
first championship meeting
Well,
between
not
Larry
his highlights,
Bird and
but I
Magic
ain't never
since
got to
the
see him
record-breaking
play for
Olympic
real.
showdown. The two were now the
But,
faces of a
saw his
surging
highlights.
NBA, revitalized thanks to their mastery and rivalry. What did
Same
Magic
thing with
do?
Larry Bird.
He choked. Pretty hard. In Game 2, he dribbled out the final 11 seconds in regulation of a tied game without putting up a shot. The Lakers lost in overtime. In Game 4, Magic had his pass picked off with 4 seconds left in regulation of a tied game. Then in overtime, missed both free throws with 35 seconds left, with the score tied again. The Lakers lost. In Game 7, Magic turned the ball over twice in the final 90 seconds of a tightly contested game. The Lakers lost. Basketball writers were ruthless and cutting. The fact was, he didn't have what it took to come through in the big moments, despite previous evidence to the contrary. And that's not how we remember Magic Johnson. We remember him as a player who came through in big games, had big performances, and who you wanted to have the ball when the game got close. Could it be because he led the Lakers to 3 championships after his 84
Hey, that was
meltdown?
like over 2
So
people.
why is it that some people's opinions on LeBron James haven't changed in the last 9 years? How are 3 championships and 7 more consecutive finals not some sort of redemption? Because of this right here, the magic bullet, 3-6 in finals series. Not that he's won 3 championships, or that he's made 9 finals, or that he's spent almost the entire decade of the 2010s playing June basketball. It's that he's made it 9 times and lost 6 times. Would it be better if he were 3-0 or 3-3? It is not a meaningful or insightful conversation in any capacity to boil down a player's entire career, his contributions, strengths, weaknesses, and subtleties, to just his record in the NBA Finals. How is it that making it to the finals and losing is worse than not making it at all? If you take the time to actually look at how
He's good,
he ended
though.
up in
He's
those
one of the
series
GOATs.
and what he actually did in them, I have no idea how you could misconstrue his finals performances as a hindrance to his case. We talked about 07, 11, 12, and 13. Of those 4, the first was a loss to a team with an actual roster and head coach. The second was a loss that can be pinned entirely on James. And the last 2 were victories. In 2014, the Spurs played absolutely divine basketball. You cannot
And
play
the
the
Spurs,
game better.
man.
LeBron and Chris Bosh were the only
That was
players on
good.
the roster who showed up. Nobody else, either because of age or mileage,
I
could
watched
handle the physical
all the
toll
games
of a 4
live.
straight finals. LeBron led the Heat in every stat but blocks. He averaged 28, 7, and 4 while shooting 57, 51, 79 splits. As Mike Tyson said to Sports Illustrated, the Spurs won because they deserved to, not because of what LeBron didn't do. You're out of your mind if you think that the 2015 finals is a black mark on LeBron's legacy. The Cavs lost Kevin Love in the first round and Kyrie Irving in Game 1 of the finals against the Warriors. But LeBron was so supremely impressive that Cleveland actually had a prayer of winning the series, which garnered him finals MVP votes despite being on the losing team. His averages were unreal, and Andre Iguodala won the award specifically because he kept LeBron from doing more damage.
Hey.
In 2017, after a super weird regular
Yeah, I
season,
remember that,
the
though.
Cavs flipped the switch and cruised to the finals against the new-look Warriors with Kevin Durant. LeBron became the first player to average a triple-double in the finals, but the Cavs lost in 5, keeping the Warriors from sweeping their way through the entire playoffs. In 2018, without Kyrie, LeBron had a run that was eerily similar to his 2007 streak. Game winners, crazy numbers, game 7s, the whole thing. The culmination of the run happened in Game 1 of the finals, when
LeBron's
LeBron
crazy.
scored an earth-shattering 51 points, giving the Cavs a chance to take a 1-0 lead in the series.
Yeah, man, LeBron's crazy.
And then this happened.
Oh, yeah, I remember this.
For the past 13 years in a row,
That man,
every
Darius Smith, he
team
didn't
that
know.
LeBron James has played on has been in
He didn't know what he was
contention to
doing, man.
win
He
the
needs to start drinking all that
championship,
Henny.
regardless of the roster around him. We're not going to play the what-if game, but he's proven that he doesn't need the league's all-time leading scorer as a teammate or the Zen master as a coach. He also doesn't need time off between finals. It took him 8 straight finals before he finally wore down. Give him any coach, give him any teammates, and by the sheer brilliance of his play, your team is now a championship contender. And I don't have to make the argument that 3 rings is more than 5 or 6 or 11, because that's not how we evaluate these players.
Do y'all think LeBron about to get a ring this year?
At ring totals. Otherwise, Robert Horry would be on Mount Rushmore. Yes, it's all about winning, but it's really not. We try to synthesize things like play style, competition, success, achievements, accolades, and the like into a more cohesive and complete picture. Just asking, did they win, when trying to argue for the greatest basketball player of all time is the wrong question, because, it's a team sport. The better question to ask is which player gave their team the best chance to win? Who meant the most to their teams? And the answer to that question is LeBron James. Is there any better example of this than the 2016 finals? What other player in that situation would have been able to do what LeBron did? He didn't try to will his team to victory by just jacking up shots. He picked his spots perfectly, got his teammates involved, and inspired a belief
You do
that
make
they
players
could win
better.
despite the odds. The series is the perfect testimony to the value of LeBron James. They were facing the 73-9 Warriors, the best record in NBA history, single-digit losses in an 82-game season. Cap it off with a title, and they instantly have a claim as the best basketball team ever. And after the first 4 games of the series, they have a 3-1 lead. No team in that position had ever lost. That lead in that series has proven throughout history to be insurmountable. Game 5 in Oakland. Kyrie shoots 70% from the floor to rack up 41 points. LeBron matches him with 41 of his own, plus 16 rebounds and 7 assists.
This is crazy game.
The only other Cavalier in double digits. Game 6 in Cleveland. LeBron spearheads a blowout with another 41-point performance, with 8 rebounds and 11 assists to go along with it. The momentum of the series has palpably shifted. Game 7 had legacy bursting at its seams. Something historic was going to happen, no matter how the game ended. Either the Warriors were about to cap off the most successful basketball season ever, or the Cavs were going to do the unthinkable. A 3-1 comeback, their first franchise title, Cleveland's first championship in 52 years, all made possible by LeBron James. A Cleveland win in Game 7 represented the single most significant feat that any player has ever achieved. The most anticipated high school basketball player in a lifetime, who became the chosen one 45 minutes away from the team that would draft him, who took that team to brand new heights, who broke that city's heart in an astonishing way, came back to try to make things right, and was now one game away from fulfilling his promise in an unprecedented comeback against a record-breaking opponent.
That was a legendary block.
Michael Jordan. Don't expect him to be. He's not Magic Johnson either. He's not Larry Bird or Bill Russell or Wilt Chamberlain. He's LeBron James, the most valuable basketball player ever. The most complete basketball player who's ever lived. The greatest basketball player of all time.
But I was in the video. Man, you know what I'm saying? Man, what do y'all think, man? Let's have some conversation in the comment section. Make sure y'all like, don't subscribe, turn the post notifications, and I'm out.